Now, the Democratic Alliance has indicated that it will write to the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Justice, requesting that the Department of Justice and the National Prosecuting Authority account for what they assert is yet another unacceptable failure in prosecuting state capture cases. This, of course, follows yesterday's judgment in the Bloemfontein High Court, where Judge Phillip Loubser found Ace Magahsule's former PA Moroadi Cholota's extradition from the US was unlawful. Joining us for further analysis on this is legal analyst Abigail Ngobeni. Abigail, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us on Point. A very interesting turn of events in court yesterday. Judge Loubser there finding that Moroadi Cholota's extradition was unlawful, and he therefore, as a court, has no jurisdiction to try her. What was your initial reaction to that judgment?
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to the viewers of SABC. Thank you very much for having me. And I think the judgment itself and the decision of the judge to release accused number 17 on that matter, it came in as a very huge, surprising matter from any ordinary South African, on the basis that the court is citing a lot of issues which were of concern. And what came as a baffling matter for me was the things that the court referred to as lies. To say there were things that, of course, were relied upon to convince the American jurisdiction that the accused in the matter was a flight risk. She had connections in Kenya. She was part of the syndicate. And it would appear that in terms of that judgment, such kind of things are unfounded. Moreover, it seems like the way in which this extradition matter was handled, it seemed to be something that was found wanting. It seems to me that the NPA was going ahead of the executive, who has the executive power to preside over such processes. And the court cited the determination of the earlier Supreme Court of Appeal judgment, where it was clarified that that role resides with the minister.
Now that you touch on that aspect of the role of the minister insofar as requesting an extradition as opposed to the NPA, that one seemed quite elementary. Or perhaps are we missing something? Is there perhaps a grey area here where it's not just black and white? There would be instances where the NPA would be empowered to actually be the ones that request a extradition in this respect, because our understanding, pardon me, at the very least, was that the NPA would be crafting then the charges, not necessarily requesting the extradition, because there's now growing perception that the NPA is honestly struggling to prosecute state capture cases or secure some high-profile extraditions. So is it as elementary as we think, where it's black and white? The powers lie with the minister to request the extradition, and the NPA comes in with almost formulating or preferring the charges against the individual.
My response to that, and thank you for that, will be in twofold. One would be that there have been an ongoing matters of extradition where this kind of objections were never raised until the recent Supreme Court of Appeal, which talks to the matter of Schultz, if I'm not mistaken, where the court clarified to say the NPA does not have that power. The power to conduct this extradition lies with the minister. And that is a judgment which happened 2 months earlier to this particular extradition of the accused number 17 in the matter. That's where the matter had a turning point to say it could be that all along the NPA was having the modus operandi that is wanting in law, and the correct measure would be to have the minister be the custodian of these channels, given the fact that the minister is the one that should facilitate through the DERCO as well, these diplomatic channels where countries communicate in that platform.
Now, they are yet, or at least the NPA is yet to be furnished with a full judgment by Judge Loubser. But as it stands, when listening to just reaction from the NPA spokesperson yesterday, for them, they said they were taken aback. So most certainly, they probably, after studying the judgment, might look to appeal. Are there grounds for appeal? Just from what we've heard from the judge, could there be any elements that they could challenge?
I heard them from the media speaking to the far-reaching effects that this judgment will have. Perhaps what they will be asking the court, and I heard earlier when the arguments or the request for postponement was being made by the prosecutor, saying that what they want to consider is to join the Schultz appeal in the Supreme Court of Appeal or bring a separate appeal on grounds which they feel another court can arrive in a different conclusion. But from where I'm observing, there are a lot of procedural flaws which I doubt they would be able to successfully come up with an appeal. But perhaps one will be jumping before the drumbeat. We may have to wait to see what are their grounds of appeal and properly formulate a legal basis on that regard.
Now, the big question is whether yesterday's outcome could have any impact on the main asbestos corruption case. Does it have, or would it have any impact?
It depends on what the NPA is relying on. Remember, as a domestic it is, they have an obligation to prove their case beyond reasonable doubt. And as it stands, the courts in South Africa don't have jurisdiction on accused number 17. And if it does not have jurisdiction on accused number 17, the question would be, do they have enough evidence? Do they have their balls in the courts to convict the rest of the accused in the absence of number 17? But what the prosecutor said today was that her presence in the matter plays a pivotal role. So I really do not know, because we are not privy to the content of the docket, but I should believe that the NPA should be able to proceed. What I really find it surprising, particularly with these high-profile matters, we have seen the NPA arresting before they investigate, and then only to withdraw such kind of matters later. So let's rather see and wait and see if they will be able to convict on this one. The ball is in their court.
All right, Abigail, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. That's legal analyst Abigail Ngobeni speaking to us there. To this story.